Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
Remember to go to the description. There's loads of cool stuff in the description, because the description's got loads of descriptive things in it to describe where we're available and what we do and stuff. Always remember to go to Grendel Press for reading stuff, because if you're into the horror genre, they have the best books out there. I promise. I'm not just saying that because I actually genuinely mean it. Apart from that, thanks to everyone in the world who's dead ace, and thanks to all the lunatics on Facebook and X and all those that keep following us and doing us. Well, let's get on with it. Bye!
The Professor. Well, Will. What an ungrateful bastard you are. I don't think that deserved the old puncheroo and the kissaroony. I checked my lip, and there was a little dab of blood on my finger when I looked at it. Will turned his back on me. Splendid, I thought. I dropped the shotgun from my shoulder to my hip, pointing it resolutely at the back of his head. A broad grin permeated my splendid visage. At this range, this thing would tear the bastard's head clean off. Give me a smack, would you? Oh, bloody teacher, you bastard. I start to add a little pressure to the trigger. I feel it move slightly. It's so close to the bloody thing going bang. Just a little more squeeze. Then suddenly, I release the pressure. I'm somewhat disappointed in myself. Why the bloody who would I not blow his noggin from his neck? He'd recover. Probably. Oh no. Oh yes. Am I being the better man? Bloody right, I am the better man. No, not utterly true. I'm acting like the better man for the sake of the saints. But I wish I wasn't. I slowly and bitterly lift the barrel to my shoulder again, only imagining the effect of the shot hitting him in his head. This imaginary explosion of the nasty bastard's bloody brain box going pop makes me smile. I can think it, can't I? Nothing up there can stop me from enjoying thinking about it. Can they? Is that a sin in itself? Oh, fuck it, I'll take the risk. I point my left finger as if it were the barrel of a pistol and say gently, bang, as it lines up with his head.
You'll be glad you didn't do that,
says Will, showing that he knew I'd leveled the shotter at him from behind his back. Fenrir had been keeping an eye or two on me. There was no trust there. In my mind, the old Simon de Montfort was speaking. Go fuck yourself, you moth-eaten mongrel, resonated as my internal voice. This gave me a warm feeling as I dabbed more at my lip with my hanky and smiled. The new Simon de Montfort, the modern man, as it were, if you can say I'm a modern man with my 1900 sensibilities, tried to sit on the beast that raged in my amygdala. That beast was extremely strong with its centuries of vindictiveness and vileness. It took quite a lot of sitting on, especially as that vindictiveness and vileness were nicely varnished with a patina of spite for a shiny, uncrackable finish. I miss the old Simon, to be honest. I hate to say it, but I do miss him. Is he the real me? Can you see the real me? Can you? Well, he really is me. Was he a vile bastard at times? Yes, he most definitely was. But he was real. Can you see the real me? Can ya? Can ya? Oh, I concur wholeheartedly that he was a horrible individual, but he was no mask, you see. No mask. Vaunt is suddenly holding Will's throat and looking at me. Oh, shit. She's slightly lifting him from the floor and looking at me for instruction. I forgot about her speed and her strength. Those skills, things, perhaps gifts. They don't seem to be an advantage for dusting off my knickknacks as my housekeeper, but she's certainly got them in abundance. The beast in my head stands down as the realization of what could happen if these two actually fight hits me. It takes others to be threatened to quell the creature back there in the animal part of my head. I speed sign her to put the doggy down, not realizing that this may be misconstrued. Oh gosh, I hadn't thought of that. I only realized my mistake as those razor-sharp claws spring from her fingers and into his flesh. Oh, bugger! I yell, No, Vaunt! Let him go! She drops Will, who now has a lovely set of red bloody pinholes in his neck. He reaches towards them to check their bloody nature. I don't swear in front of the fairer sex often, but sometimes, in cases such as these, I need such expletives. Please don't judge me for that. It's just that I was raised as a gentleman. Of sorts. Oh, feck, I said. You see, ever the gentleman. Will turned his eyes to her, and I could see in those eyes that he was... This time the you in the word seemed much more needed. Feck just would not do. Oh, for fuck's sake! I blew him off his feet, and he slid a bloody trail between the rows of chairs. The slippy slide finished in a hummock of human bits about 5 yards away. This is getting utterly out of hand as I re-rack the shotter. You know, just in case. Vaunt stood looking at me now very angrily. I mean, she would. She was covered in quite a lot of, what was Will. Not a thing a werecat can deal with too easily. It didn't help that I found this quite amusing. Oops. I'm sorry, my dear. She'd gone. My dear? She was back. Once again, she was immaculate and standing exactly how and where she had been when covered in Will. I didn't want him to... Oh, bugger. All the botheration. I looked at Will. The pile on the floor started to moan and move as I offered what I hoped was a reassuring smile to the giant and the goblin. They were both frozen, staring at me and the gun. It's quite difficult to look undangerous when you've literally just blown someone to bits. It's okay, I told them before lifting the gun from its position and pointing at them to make the point. Their eyes could only focus on the barrel of the gun. I meant no harm, but they both cowered and hid their respective faces in response. It wasn't bad for them to hide their face for aesthetics. I mean, it was utterly unwarranted to do so out of fear for me, that's my point. Look, I'm not... I tried to give them words of comfort, but they were too far gone, so... Oh, bugger you then, I said mainly to myself before dismissing the two things and making my way to my... friend on the floor.
I only fucking punched you,
the healing pile told me. I ummed and ahed for a little before trying to explain why I shot him. I wanted him to understand that it was not for my sake, but for the sake of Vaunt. That I love her, and she's something special. I mean, she is a monster in her own right, but an angry Will and Fen are of another pay grade in destructive and disturbing than even she. I didn't want that for her. Actually, that's balderdash. I didn't want it for me. My apologies, old chap. You were intending to hurt Vaunt, were you not? I asked.
Yeah,
Replied the slowly healing human mess on the floor. I had to look away as things rewound themselves into his gut like someone noisily sucking up spaghetti from a plate. In this case, it was spaghetti with a bloody and rich sauce. The bloke I spoke about in the last episode was trying its best to send my last meal to the back of my mouth.
I wish you'd just asked me to bloody stop,
he said. I considered this. Well, would you have? I asked him as he now started to sit up and give me his hand and arm for help being lifted from the ground. I sighed as I moved to him and braced myself for his attack. I sort of deserved it, I suppose. Sort of. We would be back on an even playing field if he killed me for what I'd done. I reached and closed my eyes, prepping myself. And I was pleasantly and then unpleasantly shocked when he just grasped my palm and used it to help himself up instead of tearing my arm off at the shoulder and beating me to death with the wet, gory end. I know it should have been a pleasant shock, but in Will's case it just meant I had no idea of if and when he was going to get his revenge, which he probably would. I mean, I was almost sure of that. I mean, the basis of his personality was the fact that he's an utter bastard. To blazes with it, though. I mean, what do I care anyway? The blackguard can't permanently kill me, can he? Would you have not hurt her if I'd asked you nicely? I asked him again.
No,
he said, laughing and giving me a most unchap-like hug. It was hearty and made my 1930s sensibilities a little uncomfortable until I just went through with it and gave him a rib-crunching left-armed hug back. Fortunately, I didn't have to go the full hug hog in an unmanly way, as I had the Mossberg in my right hand. A bloody useful tool, this shotter. Saved me from a lot of trouble today. I highly recommend them. In fact, check the episode description for the link and get 20% off its price with that code. I am an utter nutter. All one word, no spaces, capital letters only if you be so kind. Oh, you'll also get about 7 years in old pokey. That's a prison for all our Johnny Foreigner listeners for owning this particular multi-shot version in the UK. They're not much fun, the British gun laws. Doesn't stop me from having one, though. What do you mean, why? Well, I work with the police, don't I? I get to do what the fuck I like. Well, I assume I do anyway. I mean, there are these rules. and I just sort of ignored them. Nobody seemed to have stopped me so far. What do you think? Maybe I should check that's actually a thing. Oh, fuck it. After the slightly uncomfortable 4th second of hugging, 1 or 2 seconds are more than enough for that nonsense, we separated and looked at each other. He was himself again. Already. He'd healed very quickly. And he had that predatory smile on his handsome, roguish face. He suddenly coughed. His eyes went wide, and he bent double and spat out a black gobbet of mucus that had a shotgun pellet in it. I looked away for a moment. It wasn't a pleasant thing. Made me feel a little bit bad about shooting him, if I'm honest. Well, focus in, if you will, on the word little in that statement. And it didn't last. He looked at me with a little resentment before wiping his mouth and looking at me quizzically.
What the fuck did you shoot me with?
He asked. I replied, and managed to get no further as he repeated the same spitting process. This time, he gave himself a little extra support by putting his hands on his knees as he bent and spat out what looked like black bile. Well, you see, old chap, that shot and iron filings that I'd made up from the restoration of St. Paul's a while back, I told him.
Can they harm a werewolf?
He asked me. I considered his question while scratching my 24 hours of unshaven stubble. Well, I propose that it rather depends on the way that it enters your body, to be honest, I said, looking at the gun and patting it lovingly like you would a beloved spaniel. Will noticed this joy. He knew I had a love for all things weapony.
Fuck me. Were you getting ready for elephant hunting season with that bastard thing or something?
He asked, pointing at the Mossberg shotter. I laughed in response as I looked proudly at my gun. It was a cracker, as my old Irish CO would have said. Well, you never get too big with a shotgun, do you? I told him. There was another hacking cough and another spit before Will raised himself to standing. By the way, he was very naked and very unashamed.
And who the fuck is she?
He asked, wiping his mouth and nodding towards Vaunt. Vaunt was staring back at him, nonplussed by his nakedness. She just yawned and showed too much fang. Ah, this is Vaunt, I told him, indicating the lithe and beautiful creature. Sorry things went a little pear-shaped a little too quickly to allow me to make the correct introductions. Do forgive. She runs my household at the manor, I told him, smiling beatifically at her before turning back to the confused face of Will.
That's not really the answer I want, Simon.
He said, quite flippantly.
It's more like, who the fuck is she?
Yes, I see. She is Vaunt, a werecat, and a bloody good trooper to boot. She gave Will a half-hearted, finger-fluttering wave and yawned again as she covered her mouth almost daintily. Will gave her a half-hearted wave back. I think this answer was more of the answer he was looking for. He bent at the waist again for another hacking cough and a spit out of black goo, and from his half-bent position, he laughed.
A werecat, of course. Of course she's fucking werecat. You'll be telling me you have what next, and that you've, I don't know, a pet chupacabra or something?
He said. You've met Dave, then? Will's eyes met mine.
No,
He said with a growly tone. From that tone, I gathered that it was time to move on. I returned to the subject at hand as I regarded the room in general. WTF? I know that's what the youngsters say. I winked at the werecat as I said it, and was rewarded with a nod from Vaunt for my knowledge. I returned to my observation of the factory of belief, and I genuinely thought, what the fuck? Which sadly has no Latin equivalent. What a strange thing to think. Quid sexus, perhaps? Well, perhaps not.
Lucy, this genuinely could not be this hard to do, could it? They were less intelligent than myself and much, much less powerful. I had returned to my office in level 10 of hell. Trying to get people to do what I wanted had been hard work for once. I needed to sit and think a little. I hate unpredictable souls. My headquarters in hell always followed my mental mood. It was a professional setting today, and it was as though I was in a large office somewhere high in London's skyline. It was all stainless steel and glass, all minimalistic styling and dust-free surfaces and perfect white carpets. What kind of psycho has white carpets? The expensive art on the walls was not for art's sake, but for the cost of the pieces. You could plainly see this, as under each piece, picture, sculpture, or vase, a description of what it was and who had made it. The only thing missing was the price tag. I'm sure that the professionals who populated this office, I was sure that even they would have realised how unclassy that would have been. It even had potpourri in pots that actually smelt of something. I had never known potpourri to smell of something nice. Things like the smelly potpourri give you the understanding that this was a creation of mine. The glass-walled room was surgically clean and OCD tidy. Well, that was apart from the grotty. Yes, that's how you would describe it. Grotty cat bed that looked like it had seen a few centuries of wear. It had once been pink and fluffy, but now was, well, not. There are things that even the Lord of Hell herself cannot change, and that was one of them. I wandered around my corner office. It had nice views. Well, nice views apart from the fact that the streets were lined with cursed souls and demon spawn of all shapes and sizes. Oh no, my mistake. That was actually London and the people of London. Those were the human denizens of the capital. Maybe London was a form of hell. These people looked miserable enough for it to be so. Beautiful. Well, I had managed to turn the capital into a hell on earth of sorts. I had made it so with the great idea that Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman had given me in their book Bad Omens. Their idea had been that the M25 was designed to be a hell-born pentagram of sorts. It was brilliant. I would never have thought of that, to be honest. Humans have such a great sense of creativity. And thankfully, due to the fact that damned souls had planned the horror road, then I could actually repurpose it into a giant pentagram. It took a lot of sinners' blood and sacrifices of the satanic priesthood to get it all sorted, but judging by the results, I could see from my windows. It was well worth it. The biggest problem for this lot was their lack of faith. Without faith, there is no concept of one's actions having consequences beyond this life. For the record, they do. And the consequence is me. There was a knock at the glass door, and a beautiful red-haired woman walked in. Gosh, she was angry. Gosh, she was pretty. She was not pretty angry, though. She was very angry. "Ginger?" she yelled at me. Well, this person had a lot of guts screaming at the Lord of the Pit. What? I asked her. You thought of me as a ginger? Said the woman. I looked at her, a little confused for a while. Oh, it was my secretary for Giselle Trudeau. But in a... Oh, I had been watching Suits on TV, and it was Donna, the secretary. I laughed and snapped my fingers. The Donna burst into flame and landed on 4 feline feet silently. She was now her normal little black cat self. The cat ran to see its reflection in a glass wall and let out a hiss of relief. She wandered back and forth, turning sinuously to see her whole self. I smiled at this as I sat down in the ergonomic seat that did funky movements with motors to fit me perfectly. Very comfy. The cat, satisfied with what she could see, had returned to the desk and sprang onto it, almost knocking off the expensive porcelain sculpture at its edge. We both watched the horrible piece as it rocked back and forth until it settled. The cat stared at it, at me, at it. Then, with pure evilness, she did that cat thing of pushing it off the desk for it to smash on the floor. She laughed, as did I. How's the plan going, boss? The little cat asked as she sat, those green slitted eyes focusing on mine. The plan is not going, I told her. She could sense the irritation in my voice. The plan has been thoroughly messed up, but then somehow brought itself back together at the end. I managed to get the professor to the factory. I managed to get Will and Fen to the factory. I managed to get them working back together. I did not manage to get them to stop Fairy Foxglove. So that's the next step, said the little cat. They're just so difficult to herd. It's like herding cats. I laughed as I tickled her behind the ears. She purred. I just have no idea how to point them in the right direction. The reason why this plan worked was through sheer luck. Sheer luck. I've no idea how it worked out. I can't manipulate them. They are unmanipulatable. Is that even a word? That can't be a word. Well, it is now. Have you any ideas, my dear? I asked the little demon. There was a pause in conversation as we both were lost in thought. I have a crazy idea, she replied. It's crazy, but it might just work, she carried on. Okay, what's the crazy idea, little cat? I asked her. The cat looked to its left and right, sarcastically checking if anyone could overhear us in this empty building. There was no one other than us. Don't be dramatic, I warned her. Well, it is just a ridiculous idea, she said, and after a long, purposeful pause from her, she smiled. Okay, what is the crazy plan? You know you are testing my patience, I told her. The little cat laughed and leant into me, conspirationally. Okay, so are you ready for this? She asked, winding me up a little more. I nodded as we nuzzled. You could ask them. You could ask them to help you, you know. Tell them why you want Foxglove. I know it's a mad idea, but they might just listen to you and help you out, she smirked. I laughed lightly in response and sighed as I rested my head on my hand. Well, it's just so utterly crazy that it may just work, I replied.
Well, I looked at the young woman. There was something off about her. She was, wrong. Feeling wrong. Fenrir was walking in circles around her, sniffing and looking at her with his fire-filled eyes turned up a notch or two. She followed his journey around herself with disinterest, looking far too relaxed. She showed no fear of any kind. She seemed not to have a care in the world. She did a weird thing with her eyes that unnerved me. She did a kind of like a double wink as a blink. It took me a long time to work it out. I mean, what was wrong with that lovely face? I got it eventually. One eye would wink, then the other. Now, you could have got used to that if it was always the same eye that winked first and if the time between each wink was the same, but it never was, and it had me absolutely weirdly fascinated.
Ah, I thought so.
The professor had wandered off around the room to inspect the children in the chairs. Hook, the film, was playing on a giant cinema screen, and all those young guys were being forced to watch it.
Oh, dear.
I could hear the sorrow in his voice. He put 3 shots in the screen and then 2 into the projector. I want to say there was a cinematic slowing of the film as it broke, but that was not the case. It just stopped.
Oh, gosh. Oh, dear, dear, dear.
As I watched, he ran his hand over his face as if to try and rid some of the disgust that was evident on it.
So many of them are...
I could sense that a lot of the, let's call them prisoners, were dead.
I should have bloody known.
The anger rose in him before he kind of wilted and looked at his own feet.
I should have bloody known.
How could you have? Fen asked him. The young woman now stood next to the professor and acted somewhat like his guard. How she'd got from there to there that quickly wasn't really my concern. Yet. However, I noticed it and would need to plan for it in future.
Ah, there's the rub, my friend.
He sighed.
I knew.
Gupsy and Giant were still standing exactly where they'd been, right from the start, and trying not to exist. The professor turned his attention to them. I could see he was having an internal argument, and his eyes flicked to the Mossberg shotgun. I can imagine what he wanted to do, what he was considering with this discovery of the children.
We go!
Asked Gupsy. He was speaking to the professor. His tone was begging. The professor, in response, did the most unprofessor thing that I'd ever seen him do. He held the eyes of the little goblin and spat his disdain. Oh, and that's not a description of how he spoke. He actually spat and wiped his mouth with his handkerchief. I could now smell the anger boiling in him. It has to be such an intense emotion for me to be able to, smell it. Fen had stopped his pacing, around the werecat, and, well, he looked at me. He could also sense that the prof may go pop any minute. Then, utterly calmly, utterly being the professor's favourite adverb, then utterly calmly he spoke. I marvelled at the man's self-control. I admired him for it.
No, I'm afraid not. There will be questions to be asked and answered. I just wonder what our next steps are now.
Gupsy, poor guy, dropped his head while he nodded in response. All of us now focused on the professor, who we could all see was in deep thought.
What's the bloody next step? We can't leave these bloody kids and chase the fairy.
He was obviously thinking out loud. Vaughn turned to him and started. Suppose it was signing.
Yes, good idea. But I think it'll take far too long to get them all up through the building and back through that little portal. I think we need help.
She nodded and then signed again.
Well, again, a great idea. We could get in contact with the authorities back on our plane, but by the time they rumble into action and get anyone over here, it may just be too late.
He lost himself in thought again, but just for a moment.
I genuinely can't believe she had the gall to build one of these abominations on the Phaeton plane. She's utterly fearless in doing that. No, perhaps not fearless, but mad in the old sense of the word. In that context, it being, a bad signifier.
I didn't want to get in the way of his finding an answer, so I did what was best and just stayed quiet.
This is Bosworth's realm. Brilliant planning, really. No one would ever think it. No one would ever have been stupid enough to build something as abhorrent as this in Bozzy's town.
He really sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Why? I asked him.
Well, Bozzy's like the god of this gaff. He controls it. His magic feeds it. I mean, he would never allow this. Would he?
A moment of hesitation and confusion for the prof.
Would he?
This time the question was aimed at me. Was he questioning if Bosworth was all part of this? I thought for a moment. No, I said.
Yes,
Said the professor, sounding somewhat relieved.
This is not that type of chap. Bosworth always plays with a straight bat.
He paused and thought.
I tell you what, when he finds out about this, Foxglove is going to have some serious regrets about her actions.
Well, why don't we just tell him then? If this place runs on his magic, could he not get the kids back to where they belong? I asked him. The professor smiled and rose from his crouched position and clapped in some sort of delight.
Yes, you're so right. He can send them back. That's perfect, Will. Then he can exact his revenge as well. Marvellous,
he said with that usual big smile. Will he kill her? I asked him hopefully.
Oh no, old boy. It'll be far worse than that.
Oh, God. Well, this was getting exciting. What's he going to do then? Capture him? Torture, maybe?
No. Far, far worse, old boy.
He then did an overlong thespian, ammy-drammy sort of pause. What on earth could be worse than that?
He'll probably bar her from attending the Fated Arms. That'll teach the blighter. That'll bloody teach you.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.